All right, welcome to this middle talk of the second afternoon of UGM 2021. This is Ingrid, and she is from KU Leuven. She's going to talk about her first year, I guess, running this for real, a year of iRODS, lessons learned. She showed up in the consortium about a year and a half ago, and they've hit the ground running. There you go, Ingrid.
Thank you, Terrell. Indeed, so my talk today is about the experience in our first year trying to deploy an iRODS develop infrastructure and what we actually have learned from this. First of all, maybe for the people that doesn't know us, a little bit about KU Leuven. KU Leuven is one of the oldest universities in Europe. We will be soon, in a few years, 600 years old, and Belgium's largest university with about 60,000 students. It's also one of the most innovative universities in Europe with more than 7,000 researchers and 6,000 PhD students. KU Leuven is also a member of the Flemish Supercomputing Center, a virtual center to provide high performance infrastructure and services for the Flemish research community. So the Flemish Supercomputing Center HPC community is quite diverse. They have a user base that spans to different scientific domains with a very diverse data sets and therefore also naturally diverse needs in terms of data management. Question maybe you are thinking now, how does iRODS fit in this story? So we have to go back to 2019 when we started a project to extend the existing HPC services that were mainly focused on computing only with two additional services, a cloud service intended for offering users a more flexible environment and an active research data repository that we aim to, that will provide them with a tool to better storage and manage their research data. This repository is built on top of iRODS software, and that's why iRODS is here in the story. So why are we building such a repository? Our main goal here is to help and encourage our users, the HPC users, to apply good data management practices from the very beginning of their research, already from the moment the data is collected and created. Here is where iRODS metadata come to play by providing users with easy to use tools to structure and add metadata to their data sets. They will be able to give context to the data, search it, and automate data workflows. Also, the other iRODS capabilities should help us and allow the users to share data easily, to ensure the data is secure, and also to smooth the process of publishing these data sets in existing institutional or domain-specific repositories. At this moment, we are working together with 6 research projects to integrate the iRODS platform on their HPC workflows and also try to convince them to incorporate to them also data management practices, incorporate metadata specifically. These projects, we have projects from environmental sciences, from social science and humanities, life science and engineering. I don't have time to talk about all of them, but maybe one of the most interesting or curious we've been working together is the project that is analyzing testimonies of crimes from the 18th and the 19th century. So these are actually handwritten documents that are scanned and then transcribed by volunteers and then later also reviewed by researchers. So these scan, the handwritten scans and the transcripts are together stored in iRODS, and some metadata, appropriate metadata, is added to be able to then handle this data. This data then is later on used in the HPC, using the HPC system to train 2 models, one for handwritten recognition and entity recognition. So what kind of infrastructure do we have? The deployment that we have done and we are using now we have been doing a lot of changes during a year, but that's the final situation since December last year. So we have a storage, as a storage, we have 4 disk arrays and 8 storage servers distributed in 2 data centers and configured as compound resources, and all data that enters in one data center is replicated automatically to the second data center. We have a single zone deployed deployed, and all the iRODS infrastructure is containerized with Docker Nomad. We have on this moment 6 iRODS servers containers behind an HAI proxy. We could scale that probably if necessary, but for the moment it's enough. We have also a Metallink container and 3 WebDAV containers, and also a Yoda container by the way. We have also developed a front end based on the Go client that has been developed by Cyvers to help to control the authentication and authorization, and allows us to create and manage users and groups. We have also several clients available. We will discuss a little bit more about what we've learned about different clients in that year. So if we put this year in numbers, we have on this moment about 50 registered users, of which only 20 are active. That means they've put some data on the system. We have 475 terabytes uploaded. There's also a lot of data that gets downloaded daily, because especially the people of the climate group, they download data continuously to the HPC to use it as input for simulations. We have 55,000 collections, about 6 million, more than 6 million files, 200 unique metadata attributes, 200,000 metadata values, and the average file size is 180 megabytes. On this time, we have migrated data between different storage devices 3 times, and unfortunately, we managed to lose 300 files from the same user. So that was not a very nice achievement, but well. What we've learned of all this, the first lesson was start with iRODS is hard. The first steps are easy, the demo setup, and you think, oh yeah, that's easy, I'm going for it. But the reality is that moving from demo to real life, it is much more complicated. There is a learning curve is high, and getting into understanding how iRODS works and how things all the pieces are connected together is not simple and requires some time. Documentation is not always clear, and sometimes it's simply not enough. The documentation is there, or you need to find documentation in several sources to get to the point that you understand what you need to do. And the most important is that you need to figure out when and how to create rules. So when the rule is necessary and when not, and then especially when you want to support very specific and tasks that are almost unique. But we did it, but it's what it is, and I think we did it well, but it took some time for us to get to know iRODS and understand it. The second lesson was, and the second question, maybe more a philosophical question, was MySQL or not MySQL? And we choose for MySQL, and it is possible, and we are doing it, and we run it based on MySQL. But we feel sometimes they're like as the black sheep of the family, because so far we haven't found any performance or big performance issues, but we've found some issues that makes our life sometimes a bit difficult. For installing, we already needed to do some patches to the installing process, or especially UTF-8 encoding related. With MySQL, Metallink search does not work, at least not in our environment. And we think finally, after a little bit digging in deep on the problem, we think we have a clue why, and we think it's because there is a missing MySQL implementation in upstream dependency. There is an issue open and there is some information. It was recently updated, so, and we hope to be digging on this and fix it soon. There is also issues with atomic metadata. That's an issue that was not opened by us, but there's also we have seen it. Another issue we've seen is that the database schema of MySQL is use case insensitive bar chart columns by default, where Postgres does case sensitive. So that gives a very interesting side effects, like for instance, it breaks the IMeta upper Q, for example, but also same rule executed with a Postgres database works and it breaks or doesn't work, fails when you have a MySQL in the background. And finally, MySQL transactions also behave different than Postgres transactions. And we have seen also there some interesting effects there. Another thing we've learned is about the storage dilemma. Choosing a storage for iRODS is actually not an easy job. Which storage type is best for me? Which is the best configuration? And what should be the storage hierarchy I should be using in my case? We understand this is really very specific of the use case, but some extra, I would say, information about the pros and cons of the storage or tips and tricks when you use this or that will be really helpful. Because we needed to choose or to start learning more about the storage device infrastructure to decide about our production infrastructure next year. We've been playing around and we have been testing XFS, NFS, S3s, VGFS, GPFS. So far, what we've learned there is NFS tends to be the most stable and performant, easy to configure also. S3, at the moment we tested, that was some month ago, was unstable and less performant than NFS, but we have done an upgrade at our Ceph system, and I think we know there are some improvements in the S3 plugin, so we need to do there more testing. BGFS was a little bit less performant, but the biggest issue here was that the IBON command was not working anymore. We suspect that was because hard links are not supported with BGFS, but that's something we haven't yet confirmed. GPFS was a stable and similar performance as NFS, but maybe here, of course, we are very familiar with GPFS. It's all over scratch systems on the HPC system, so probably there we were feeling also more comfortable with them. Replica management in iRODS is not yet robust enough. We have heard we have learned this the hard way. Yeah, that the 300 files that were lost was because we didn't know that the replica was not made correct. It was appropriate, it was good. But I think there what Alan presented yesterday about the logical lock might help and can be a very good improvement there. And we've seen also memory leaks using other storage systems that are not the Unix file system, but we really don't know yet from where or what is why is this happening. So if more other people there's some clue, we would like to hear about it. About the user experience, from our users, of course, they are HPC users, so are mostly advanced users. And actually, yeah, they tend to be happy with the command line and the Python. There we have created a lot of user guides and training, including hands-ons and a lot of examples that has really been helpful for them and helped to make the onboard in the system easier. We have also a lot of group trainings, one-to-one trainings specifically for them. We have also developed a PRC extension that allows them to use wildcards, and also a function that with the PRC that gets the information of the job ID and some other information that is from the batch system and adds it directly to a collection or a file. But also we see that although our HPC advanced users are happy with the command line, we still need other systems to access direct data directly, so no two apps do puts and gets continuously. So NFS RODS, WebDAV, of iRODS, that's things that we for sure need to keep exploring, and a user-friendly graphical interface is a must. And there comes to our interesting learning process about the WeWars. So we tested and we had still Metallink's installation and a Yoda installation. So Yoda is a very user-friendly portal, implements the whole data lifecycle from ingestion of data to publication. So it's more an RDM tool in itself, has a full control of ACLs and data access, implements a very rich set of policies for a specific workflows, especially RDM workflows. And the metadata is basically at collection level, and it has templates that are configurable, that are based in data site. So it's a very good product. I think Utrecht did an incredible good job there. And Metallink is also user-friendly, is also nice, but sometimes we have heard from some users has too much. It has too much options. It has a direct interface to iRODS, so there is less the policies that are implemented, but you can do everything that you can do in iRODS, so it's nice also. And metadata has the advantage that you can use it at collection and at object level. And there are templates, but are at that on this moment a little bit too simple. But of course they are there. The search function, I think, is good. Yoda, by the way, also has a very rich search function. But in our case for Metallinks, we haven't been using it because it doesn't work. So although both are very good and works well, I think the problem is they don't like to be together. They doesn't coexist nicely. So Yoda shadow groups breaks some of the Metallink's functions, and there has been something we discover after some. It was not something you see from the first day. So our final decision is that we will stop using Yoda. Also, there is because we are only working as an active repository, all the extra functionalities of Yoda till the publication seems less relevant for us. And then we will keep using Metallinks and try to fix the problems, obviously. But in parallel, we have started to do a proof of concept of an own developed portal. We have also developed, as I mentioned before, a light front end based on the Go client that incorporates some custom authentication based on OAuth. And while we are waiting for the release of the 4.3 version that will include the interactive PAM, and also then allows us to manage users and group, and has some of the features, by the way, that Yoda has on promoting users as group manager and these kind of things. So thank you, Cyverse, for providing the client that on top of which we have built that. So the question probably some people is now, is yet another iRODS portal in the world. Yeah, well, why we think we want to do a portal is basically because we want an easy to use domain specific web-based interface that can support the wide range of use cases. We want something that's much more flexible, where we can mix both iRODS rules and also logical business from us, internal and external. Our idea is to go for a modular approach, something reusable building blocks, and then users or per project, we could build a very simple portal with just 2 modules, or a very complex portal where also you include, for instance, access to an HPC system, as we saw this morning in the talk of Martin and Mohammed. And then actually then centrally supported by us, but with the possibility that the users itself, if they want, they extend it. And of course that leverage rich search engines and indexing, as we have heard also from other people, that this is what they need. And we also think we've already done some technology choices. I'm not going through because I don't have a lot of time. But we will be really happy to hear from other people that is doing similar things, what they think about it. And also it is really, do we really need to go that way, or we can do some things together? So there we would really like to hear from you. So to conclude, iRODS is a flexible and very powerful tool for data management. Although the learning curve is high, it is really worth the effort, and the results that you get make it very valuable, the time that you invest. Of course, some additional documentation and how-tos could help to find a way to beginners, as we had a year ago. I think we should maybe start thinking or talking about a community curated wiki on best practices or tips and tricks. I think John Constable did some kind of with the newsletter and did a very good job, but I think we should do this in a more standardized or maybe more continuous way. Some components needs to be more tested against the other databases than Postgres, but there we hope to contribute. But at the beginning, we've been so busy learning and understanding, and sometimes you don't know if it's just because you are doing wrong. I think we are in the position now that we can contribute more to the community, and we hope we can do it, and that's for sure the intention we have. And of course, and that's really the most important of all, there is a great, dynamic, and fantastic community behind iRODS. It's really incredible to see what people is doing. It has been said this morning by Ton, but I think it's really amazing, and that we can build on top of what others has developed and contribute is really one important, a very key point of using this technology. So I really would like to thank you, everybody, for the help and the support and the development that all these years before we started has been happening. And just to finalize, what are we going to be busy next year? So we are going to keep our development, of course, in the HPC active repository, but we have already the first version, and we are going to start with users in September with active research data repository for the whole KU Leuven that we are talking about potential users of 14,000 researchers. There we are going to be talking about several zones, but the way we are deploying on this moment will be for us very easy, because we can do this a very automatically way. We can deploy zones just with a click, not as, but almost. We have to finalize the design and buy the production storage infrastructure. We are talking for the HPC. That will be about minimum of 6-8 petabytes. And we are going to explore, test, and deploy some features that are important for us: federation, NFS rods, landing zones, the user portal, search engines and indexing, Globus also, and also very important, has been mentioned before, we also see the need of have for data that has to be GDPR compliance, access controls, auditing, security, etc. I'm here today talking, but I haven't done this alone. But actually, all the work has been done for all this fantastic team that works on the project. So I also would like to thank them for being such a great team and do such a nice things. And we hope we will do even better things in the next years. Thank you very much for your attention.
Excellent. Thank you. That's a great overview, and it's always interesting to hear about the first attempts, right? Because we're in the weeds on the other end, and so yeah, hearing about what it's like to show up and have to read everything for the first time is important. Yeah,
that is, I think so. You feel a little bit clumsy sometimes because you feel like you don't know enough, and you feel like maybe better don't ask that stupid question, but we've learned that it's better to ask.
Absolutely, yeah. You could spend many minutes looking for something that isn't there. So Pete Clapham has a question. He says, "What just wants to know more about the storage investigation. You had a nice comparison. What tuning and performance tweaks were used?" So you're still sharing that in case that's a.
Well, we haven't got to the point that for every storage tweak everything to see what the best performance you can get. It was a very basic, like to just compare with the basic configurations, which one was like out of the box working well and which one's not. The details I don't have it. I don't know by heart, but I can sure check it with my data center guys and the storage guys, which configurations they have used. I think if we can put together maybe all the information we have, we can at some point release it for other people.
Very good. You're still sharing your screen. There
yeah, I saw it now.
That's okay. And then Mike Conway wants to know, and I do too, more about this conflict between Yoda and Metallink. That's the first that I think I've heard of it, and I don't know that anyone else has seen that before either. What can you tell us about what you do know, and maybe we can fix that very quickly?
It is, yeah, maybe Paul is also in the room, maybe, but I can tell a little bit because we don't know exactly all the details and why the things exactly happen. But Yoda expect you to do almost all the interaction with Yoda. So iRODS go through Yoda, and they implement all the groups access and special groups that people can. The principal investigators can add people to the group, so they have some kind of more, I would say, hierarchy or more granularity in the groups and the permissions in the groups. And with these activated, and if you try to then interact with iRODS from the other side, so from the back of Yoda, and these shadow groups that there's a number of policies that Yoda implements that checks that you are in the group, and then if the groups are not named the same, you have groups in Yoda that are not the same groups in iRODS, and we were having this, what solution could be to use the same groups. Yoda blocks it because you are not member of the groups that say there are some kind of controls that if you are that user, you can do that and that. If you are that user, you can do other things. If you are a member of that group, then you have those. And this is implemented in the policies that are in the rule set of Yoda. I think it's not that difficult to maybe fix it, but because we were already in the two, we were not going to use the two, seems not a good idea. And because that Metallinks offers the metadata at the object level that in Yoda at this moment is not possible, we decided to move to one side, let's say.
Okay, so it sounds like it might be just that we could arrange some namespacing between the rules that are put in place so that they can play well each other, or make Metallinks a little bit smarter to ignore known Yoda patterns, perhaps.
Yeah, because Yoda blocks that. Then, for instance, in Metallinks, you could upload files, but then some actions on this file in these files, like removing or adding metadata, were not possible. They were gray, and you cannot use it because this is you get some you are not in the space of the user, something like that. It's really very complex inside, and I'm not the best person to I think Paul is the one that knows more the details.
Yeah, so Paul is nearby. He can answer if he wants to. I don't know if he didn't volunteer, but I gave him a microphone.
But if someone wants to we can talk aside, and he can give all the details on this.
Absolutely. And then we have a question from Keys also. How many person months did it require to get to this level that you're at now? You've spent, a full year doing the work. Yep. And I know that you spent time before that drawing on the board and lots of questions.
Yeah, it has been, of course, the team has been growing over the time. So we started, not everybody that is in the slide with the team, not everybody is full-time working for the project. Some people works 50%. And so, but we have for sure 3 people now full-time, but most of them started from April and some in the last summer. So they are less than a year, so 6 months. But there are 3 people full-time, if I count me full-time, but not exactly. There's 4, and then I would say about 5, 6 full-time equivalents, something like that, in that range. It's difficult to say, but more or less.
Sure.
We expect, of course, that now has been a lot of work to set up and to test and to play and we've been changing. We started, everything was physical servers in the beginning till October, November last year. Then we move everything to the containerized environment. So yeah, once this is stable, I think we will have more work in the user support part, in the building of rules and configurations and work, the bringing the users, but less work in the infrastructure. So that will be compensated.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And then in terms of what took the most time, was it mostly the storage investigation? Was it the kind of learning about the interactions?
Well, it was in parallel. I mean, finding the right way to configure all the stuff, and we came from the physical servers to then maybe better to move everything to more, because that was really a lot of manual work that needed to be done, and then in parallel learning iRODS more at the rule level, so more the interface to the users, and because it's different people of different teams working, that was possible to do it in parallel. That was what the advantage. But figuring out the whole picture, I think, was the most difficult. How are we gonna do that? How are we gonna use it? How are we going to deploy this? And now we have done the last month a lot of work on thinking and talking and drawing how this infrastructure, production infrastructure should be looking at. What do we want? What we think we've seen some things that doesn't work, or if it's not that they don't work, for instance, that a replica can be a replica, there's a problem in one of the servers and the file is copied, but there is full the file system, and iRODS doesn't know that this second replica was wrong. Then the first replica was lost by a movement that we did wrong, but the second replica was. So these kind of things, iRODS not always has the intelligence of this. Mm-hmm. And then you need a lot of monitoring on top. So can we have a storage that remove all this complexity and then put more work on the storage in terms of monitoring and infrastructure, and keep iRODS only for what really is good at, or it's really intended as the metadata, the user interface. That's a little bit the things that we've been talking a lot, let's say.
Yeah, that balance is, I think, different for every deployment, and that's basically part of the reason that it's hard to find, those cookbooks and those documents that you wanted to go find. They basically become what these talks are, right? They get congealed down to, well, this is what we did and this is why, and good luck.
Yeah, I absolutely, I agree. It's difficult to give advice, but I think at least we should come all together with a list of questions, of checklist to what you need, things you need to think about before you start, and because we have all made mistakes and we have all that, oh, no, this was not the right way. So I think if we put this together, and someone instead of a year is always going to take time to start, because understanding iRODS, it takes time.
It does.
At least it took for us.
No, you've spun up faster than most, so you should not. You should feel very pleased with the work that you've done. This is it's impressive.
And we hope now we feel now we are taking off. I mean, this has been a year of a lot of suffering and saying, we don't get there, we don't understand. And then you see all these people doing such a nice things and say, we are far from that. But we feel now like we are ready to take off. Yeah, that's a nice thing. And the community, of course, has helped a lot. And the Google chat and the questions, people really answer good advice. So that's for sure.
Very good. Yeah, and I think pretty much anyone here would try and answer questions if they knew the answers. So yeah, please continue to ask. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, bye.